most likely an admission of guilt. You know, you don't apologize for things that you didn't do. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way. But what's not allegedly is that James Warren is the former COO of acquisitions of a real estate investment firm called Greenstone Ventures LLC.
Damn, so this guy was really a bad guy all along. One of the businesses listed in this indictment of his former business partner, Joshua Hutchins. Mr. Beast was supposed to be a hero.
Who was sentenced to 10 years in prison for running a real estate Ponzi scheme.
Ponzi schemes are great up until they just go bust.
So before working at Mr. Beast, James Warren was involved in a literal fraud. In fact, he's actually mentioned in the court transcripts of this case, the sentence hearing for Joshua Hutchins. I'm going to highlight testimony from just one of these victims, a retirement age woman named Sylvia. She testifies, "I came to know Mr. Hutchins through a very reputable and successful real estate attorney who highly recommended Mr. Hutchins and who eventually left his agency to become the chief operating officer of Mr. Hutchins' investment firm." The chief operating officer of Mr. Hutchins' investment firm. She explains that the reason she trusted Mr. Hutchins was through the strong recommendation and endorsement from that very reputable and successful real estate agent. He represented Mr. Hutchins as highly competent and capable. He presented a successful track record and how Mr. Hutchins had delivered for other investments. On the next page, page 16, she testifies, "My trust was and has been severely violated. This is the equivalent of financial. Many of us entrusted Mr. Hutchins, who we've come to know to be fraudulent. Just $1.3+ million of worthless paper signed by him fraudulently misrepresented in the courts." So Hutchins was convicted for soliciting investment monies by telling victims that their money would be put to work on a specific property. In fact, Hutchins did not put all the investor funds to work on the property on which the investor was solicited to invest, and instead regularly used investor funds on other properties or personal expenses.
Damn.
Now, what kind of personal expenses? Well, apparently he bought an AR-15 and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. His wife had a domestic violence order of protection against him. He's accused of calling his wife a lying rat and sending menacing photos of himself in tactical gear in the woods to her friends and family. Again, according to Sylvia's testimony, James Warren represented Mr. Hutchins as highly competent and capable. She continues on page 17. "James Warren, the then realtor who recommended me to Hutchins, also encouraged us to work with Mr. Hutchins on trying to make him to be able to diagnose real estate. What I've heard of James Warren's character, how he's hit ex-girlfriends, not let them leave the house, beat his dog, defrauded people in his own ways. Creative juice is an interesting one that could be looked into, which was done with Mr. Beast, as well as another scheme that we'll get into that he conducted with LaKoya Hill. I personally believe that when he was working with Mr. Hutchins, he was in similar company. I think the COO of acquisitions would know and be sort of responsible for properties not being properly acquired through the court system. But again, that's my opinion. That's all allegedly. Now on to his alleged best friend, LaKoya Hill. They both went to UNC Chapel Hill together, and they both, after graduating, got into real estate. But by 2017, LaKoya Hill was running an adult entertainment event business in San Francisco called LaKoya Hill Entertainment. Then in 2019, he was hired to Mr. Beast as a producer.
Chris! Chris! Oh, there he is.
Our party evolved into this place where, you have the drag queens, the muscle daddies, the bears, the twinks, the posh boys.
Now, I'm all for personal freedom. So I believe that they should be able to do whatever they want. However, I question what qualified the sort of go-go dance drag daddy of San Francisco for a job producing YouTube content for children.
Oh, he's the guy in the middle.
It'd also be weird if Mr. Beast hired Johnny Sins as the janitor, I guess. That's not the real issue, though. The issue is that in late 2021, he was allegedly fired for sexually assaulting his assistant. Now, I put fired in quotation marks because he was actually quietly moved to the dubbing company, which was Unilingo at the time. Here is proof that he used the LaKoya at unilingo.tv email, links back to him, links to these photos, one of which was the profile picture for his YouTube channel. Which also, after my first video, his YouTube channel mysteriously got deleted. And at some point, his Twitter also got deleted. I don't know if that's when he sexually assaulted his assistant. I don't know if that's after my first video got posted. Either way, Booty Call Wednesdays are canceled. He was actually brought back to Mr. Beast in 2023 after sexually assaulting his assistant prior and promoted to Chief Financial Officer, which is how I personally was introduced to him. Here's some evidence from the internal Slack channel at Mr. Beast showing LaQuaya Hill acting in some COO capacity, saying there's news reporters outside, do not engage with them. This was shortly after the Time magazine article came out. So here I have a document showing testimony from former Mr. Beast employees talking about LaQuaya Hill. And when I say verified former Mr. Beast employee, I had them send some form of proof. I know who some of these people are. They just want to remain anonymous. But, I'm willing to share this with like an independent third party if it needs to happen. Personally, I don't think Mr. Beast is going to deny sort of this LaQuaya Hill story that I'm going to show you. But here's the first testimony, and I'll say this person is especially credible in my opinion. I asked them, did you see or hear of any sexual misconduct at the company? They say, yes, LaQuaya Hill, the current COO. In 2021, he had an assistant named victim's name. I heard LaQuaya acted very inappropriately with victim, booking hotel rooms with only one bed, walking around in his underwear, having victim come to his house and showing him his sex toy collection. Just in general, LaQuaya made victim uncomfortable. Victim started complaining to higher-ups and a report got written. LaQuaya was put on paid leave for like a month. Then Mr. Beast moved him to the dubbing company and he was hired back in 2023 and was promoted to COO, even though Jimmy, James, and Sue 100% know his history. Also, I heard that when victim was let go, he was given $30,000 in severance. I could get you victim's number. I don't know if he'd talk. I respond, yeah, that'd be great. Also, is there proof he moved to the dubbing company? I could look. It was the original dubbing company called Unilingo. Mr. Beast practically forced them to hire LaQuaya, and then they poached Unilingo's employees and copied their whole business and created Creator Global. Verified employee number 2. Asked them the same question, have you heard of any sexual misconduct at the company? They say, yes. I don't know how to spell their name, but LaQuaya, something like that. He was brought in last year after having not worked there for a year or so at a very high level. I respond, LaQuaya Hill. They say, the reason he had been asked to leave previously is that he had sexually harassed someone that still worked at the company when he was brought back. Yes, LaQuaya Hill. But they brought him back knowing he had sexually harassed an employee previously. And people often talk about LaQuaya making them very uncomfortable on shoots. I verified employee number 3.
So he's a
I'm looking
predator.
into more accusations of sexual misconduct at the company, wondering if there's anything you could corroborate. Have you heard of anything about LaQuaya Hill? They respond, the old gay guy who likes to bang 18-year-old straight employees. Yeah, I've heard of him. Anything non-consensual to your knowledge? I heard he got in trouble for hooking up with his 18-year-old straight assistant, but the company kept it quiet from what I heard. He's a producer and worked in the adult entertainment before Mr. Beast. Yeah, LaQuaya Hill Entertainment. I heard he was fired for sexual harassment, then brought back a year later. That's what I heard too. Employee number 4. Do you know who LaQuaya Hill is? Yes. And you're aware of the case that has been covered up for some time. Explain. Essayed multiple people, apparently roofied multiple people as well. Verified employee number 5. I'll also say this person is especially credible, but they worked there a while ago, like 2020, 2021, around then. Okay, few things. LaQuaya sexually assaulted his assistant who was straight and LaQuaya was gay. You probably already know that. But James is best friends with him, so holy shit was that surprising that they kept him around way longer than they should have. There were reports of him making the assistant sleep in the same room/bed with him on trips, touching him inappropriately, and dangling his job in front of him. Employee number 6, did you hear anything about LaQuaya Hill? I heard that incident happened. I heard they let him go, and I heard they brought him back and just put him in a different department. And I don't know, but I think he's working there again. Now, recently, Mr. Beast has let LaQuaya Hill go. They had this sort of leaked email where they say, therefore, along with Jeff Hausenbold, our new president and COO, right? Alluding to the fact that LaQuaya Hill is no longer working there. Now, I have been open with Mr. Beast about the fact that I was going to cover LaQuaya Hill. This is a single frame in my first video where I reference LaQuaya. He's also in my Twitter header. And I've also just told people who work at Mr. Beast that they have to let LaQuaya Hill go. So they did what I wanted and let him go, right? Well, just on a whim, I decided to look into the Creator Global LinkedIn, and it had gone private to where everyone just shows up as a LinkedIn member, right? But I saw this, L, LinkedIn member, president of Creator Global. I thought, you know what, that's a little suspicious. So I reached out to one of my connections close to Mr. Beast and I said, hey, can you look into this account for me? Because sometimes if you have connections, you can see private LinkedIn accounts. And this is what they saw. LaQuaya Hill listed as the current president at Creator Global. No work history between graduating UNC in May 2001 and becoming the president at Creator Global in 2024. Dude, this is like the 3-cup game where you gotta like keep track of the pets and racists as Mr. Beast just moves them between companies.
They just sort of kept moving them around. You know, like those killer whales at SeaWorld, after it kills a trainer, they'll then move it up to Seattle. They don't give them their background.
Which I heard, Mr. Beast or James Warren forced Unilingo to hire LaKoya as sort of part of their partnership without, sending them the report on his alleged sexual misconduct at the company. I also have a voice memo from James Warren showing that they told Unilingo to process a $28,000 bonus for LaKoya, which there's definitely something suspicious going on with that.
Hey buddy, it's James. Sorry to be bothering you. I've done my absolute best not to bother you. But LaKoya had presented a bunch of stuff to me and Jimmy a little bit ago. All really great stuff. But he had asked me and Jimmy personally, he's like, hey, can I have a $28,000 bonus for work I did in the past? And I'm like, yeah, of course, man. And the reason for that is I had brought him up to my level, and I don't take bonuses. So for like 2 years, he didn't get any bonuses when our guys were getting like crazy percentage bonuses. I need a favor. Sue cannot process this bonus through Beast. I need a solid. Can you please process a $28K bonus for LaKoya? Let me know. Bye.
And then they used LaKoya to try to steal Unilingo's business, poach their employees, take their clients, and then Mr. Beast launched Creator Global, where LaKoya Hill is currently listed as the president. So that's LaKoya Hill. And that's just what I can put on the record. I will say that if Mr. Beast tries to deny this, more evidence will be brought to light, and more people will definitely come out defending me, saying, hey, this is true, these allegations are true. This is all true, allegedly, in my opinion, for legal reasons. Okay, now let's move on to the man himself, Jimmy Donaldson. First, I'll show this testimony from another former Mr. Beast employee, just to show sort of the work culture, especially from a female's perspective. She says, on my very first day, I was told to avoid being alone in a room with certain people in positions of power. At least once a week, I was subjugated to inappropriate questions and conversations. Once, a male coworker asked me what I would do if Jimmy assaulted or harassed me. On another occasion, this same coworker said it wasn't fair that women could just decide a past sexual encounter wasn't consensual. Many of the men I worked with would make assault and pedophilia jokes on a daily basis. They would scream and hit walls when they got upset. The minute any woman leaves a room, they would talk about if/how they would fuck her. I've heard men comment on female contestants' bodies many times. Not everyone behaves this way, but no one openly speaks out against it in fear of losing their job. If you complain about any of this, you'll be shamed for being too sensitive or just ignored. You can't take anything to HR either because Jimmy's mom runs it. It's pretty common for people to essentially get paid to leave and stay quiet if they make enough noise about something. There is no employee handbook, by the way. If you ask for one or what the company's policies are, they just tell you to ask them and they'll let you know if anything is against the rules. But again, there's nothing in writing, which is true. The leaked document is just the production manual. Not given to all employees. Here's another testimony. This person will go on the record. This is Jess, who accused Ava Chris Tyson of sexual assault. I think her case has been sort of mostly ignored because she wasn't a minor when it happened. But she was a Mr. Beast employee, and you can see in her evidence, in her communications with the company, the clear signs of a cover-up. You can see them threatening her with legal action and emails and saying oh, we're going to have a law firm investigate this. Well, they had one firm do an internal investigation, McGuire Woods LLP, the same law firm that sent me my first cease and desist. But then they hired, Harvey Weinstein's legal team, allegedly, to re-review everything. So I guess they weren't happy with the results of the first internal investigation. Also, this new law firm, Quinn Emanuel, Mr. Beast has worked with them previously, allegedly, to internally investigate LaKoya Hill's sexual misconduct. So why don't you make that report public, Jimmy? Anyway, here's Jess's testimony. I only hung out with Jimmy a handful of times, but he definitely was a little more reserved around me because I wasn't a part of his inner circle, or the boys club as it's called. I did hear Jimmy straight up say that the guy making a documentary on him right now has footage of him saying stuff that would absolutely get him canceled. It's just a well-known thing the boys club is misogynistic and looks down on women in the company despite what they might say publicly. Behind closed doors, the women in the company know that the culture is a problem. I have heard multiple stories of Jimmy being directly informed of SA happening at the company and proactively working to keep it quiet. So Jess directly implicating Jimmy in the SA cover-ups. LaKoya with an 18-year-old straight assistant, so she's one of the people corroborating that story, Ava told Jimmy about a time she was essayed by another talent member on a private jet, and talent members/employees making advances towards contestants was a regular occurrence. The reason all of this was able to happen for so long is because Jimmy is deeply misogynistic and only respects what he considers to be traditional women. He pushed those values into the company when he created it, and it resulted in several SA allegations we know about, and probably a lot more we don't know yet. Which I will say, a lot of the SA allegations are still not public. Like, man, just fire James Warren and LaKoya Hill. Fire them, don't just move them around. Or I'm going to start dropping nukes. Anyway, I'm going to move Maddie Spadell away from all this. I just want to touch on this briefly. So Maddie Spadell, who's Mr. Beast's very public ex-girlfriend of 2.5 years, posted this on her Instagram story. She doesn't mention Jimmy by name. It's sort of vague. I think probably either because she's under an NDA or maybe she's just testing the waters to see how people respond before sharing more information. But also, it's like not that vague if you have reading comprehension and can read context clues. She says she spent years being quiet, never acknowledging that time in her life. 19 to 21 are formative years. It impacted how she saw herself and how she trusted men. Months of therapy. She says how he treats other women will ultimately be how he treats you. So how does Jimmy treat other women?
I don't really get along with women. I don't really get along with women. I don't really get along with women.
Well, women are stupid because they're inferior to men.
That when she and a group of contestants who were menstruating during the event had asked the production staff about getting their underwear more quickly, she had been told that it was not a medical emergency.
You'll never actually respect a woman, but just act like you respect them.
My God. Mr. Beast withheld my birth control. I have ovarian cysts. You can't just stop taking birth control.
I don't really get along with women.
Also in this podcast, Jimmy goes on to talk about his relationship with his current girlfriend, Tia, in very weird ways, in my opinion.
For us now, like, an idea of a date is just to, like, take an IQ test and then study and see if we can get a higher. An idea of a date is just to, like, take an IQ test. And then she was like, I'm an author. And I was like, fuck yeah, good. She has a hobby. And then I just DM'd her. I was like, oh, so your book, can I read it? She sent it over, read the whole book, and it was just like acting like it was the greatest book ever. I don't really get along with women.
It's all of our jobs to protect our friends, our moms, our wives, our sisters, our daughters, ourselves from people like that. That's a pretty clear statement.